Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Parama Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Sarva Gurubhyo Namaha. We're continuing on with Hari Bhakti Vilas, 10th Vilas. We're in the 10th Vilas and we're talking a little bit about the qualities of Vaishnavas. So let's go straight to the text. And this was the last text. Actually, the last text was a text from Padma Purana. That was chapter 10, verse 58. And it was Tapadi Pancha Samskari, Navejya Kamakarakaha, Artha Panchaga, Vidvipro, Mahabhagavato Hisaha. Okay, so this was a definition of what a Mahabhagavata is. The person who's had the Pancha Samskara means the Vaishnava initiation, and who's learned in the 5 kinds of knowledge called Artha Panchaga, which are an elaboration of 3 types of knowledge, which are called Tattvahita and Purushartha. In Gaudiya Vaishnavism, these are called Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. So Artha Panchaga are 5 types of knowledge, which are actually an expansion of those 3. Okay, so let's continue on. Text 59. Being loyal without deviation. It's another quality of a Vaishnava. Those who are completely surrendered unto Lord Vishnu and whose minds are always filled with thoughts of him are considered unalloyed devotees. So these are all nice definitions of different types of different words that we hear in the Shastras. Mahabhagavata is a type of devotee, pure devotee, and then we have Bhagavata itself. There's a Mahabhagavata, a great Bhagavata, a great devotee, and then there's the actual Bhagavata himself, Bhagavata, devotee of Lord Krishna or Vaishnava. Text 60 and 61. Becoming an unalloyed devotee means cultivating spiritual knowledge. So we had that in verse 58 about the five kinds of knowledge, and now we're going to have a little bit more about that. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th Canto, 11th chapter, text 33, and 11th Canto, 2nd chapter, text 50, these verses were spoken by the Supreme Lord. My devotees may or may not understand my transcendental nature and existence, but if they worship me with unalloyed love, I consider them to be first-class devotees. So, Bhaktatama means the greatest bhaktas, the greatest devotees. And then down here we have another word, Bhagavata Uttama, Bhagavatottama. It also means the greatest devotee. Literally the greatest bhaktas and the greatest bhagavatas. One who has actually taken shelter of Lord Vasudeva gives up the desire for fruitive activities, which are all based on material lust. Indeed, thoughts of enjoying sex, social prestige, and wealth cannot develop within his mind. Thus, he is considered to be a first-class devotee of the Lord. So next, in text 62, it says there are 4 kinds of pure devotees. One class is characterized by a lessening of the desire to follow the principles of mundane religion. So again, in the 11th Canto, 11th chapter, 32nd verse, in reply to a question of Uddhava, the Supreme Lord says, O Uddhava, one who worships me, giving up the occupational duties that are prescribed by me in the Vedas, knowing their faults and good qualities, is considered a first-class devotee. So it's so interesting here. One who worships me, giving up the occupational duties that are prescribed by me in the Vedas. It's a very interesting verse. So some of these occupational duties which are spoken of in the Shruti Shastras are given up by Bhagavatas and Bhaktas. If they interfere with the devotional service to the Lord. So again, in the Bhagavad Gita text, chapter 18, verse 66, the very famous Gita Charma Sloka of Lord Krishna, is quoted here in text 63. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja ham tvam sarva papi tvam sarva papibhyo mokshayishyami ma suchaha. O Arjuna, give up all varieties of religious and occupational duties and just surrender unto me. I will deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. And of course, there are the purport to this verse is quite extensive in Bhagavad Gita, and we need to go over that, but we don't have time here. So, text 64. In the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, this verse is to be found. When the Supreme Lord becomes the object of one's meditation, so that he receives the Lord's mercy, he gives up all attachment for following the rules and regulations prescribed in the Vedic literature. Because the Vedas do not directly give information about the son of Nanda, it requires his mercy to understand him. So these are talking about giving up attachment to ordinary social rules which are given in some scriptures, Smriti Shastras, which is less important than the worship of the Supreme Lord, the direct worship of the Supreme Lord. Text 65, the devotee does not depend on external formalities. In the story of Ola found in the conversation between the Supreme Lord and Uddhava in the Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto, 26th chapter, verse 27, this verse is found. Those who are peaceful, who view others with equal vision, who are indifferent to material conditions, who are fully absorbed in thought of me, devoid of all sense of false proprietorship, free from false ego and the dualities of material existence, and do not depend on others, are to be considered first-class devotees. Okay, so these are all different qualities of first-class Bhagavatas or Bhaktas or Vaishnavas. So in the conversation between Kapila and Devahuti, which is found in Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 25th chapter, 24th verse, it is stated here in text 66, my dear mother, saintly devotees are those who are freed from all kinds of material attachment. You should seek out the association of such saintly devotees because this counteracts the evil effects of mundane association. Text 67 and 68 is from the Skanda Purana, and it says their minds remain fixed even in adverse situations. One whose mind does not deviate from the lotus feet of Lord Kesava, even if he is put in great difficulty, and thus never gives up his engagement in devotional service, is certainly a first-class devotee. An exalted devotee is one who remains constantly engaged in unalloyed devotional service to Lord Hari, even in the face of calamities. Indeed, his mind and intelligence are never diverted from anything other than the service of Lord Hari. So, again, another quality is given here in text 69. They're absorbed in love of God. So Lord Rishabhdev has spoken the following verse, Bhagavatam 5.5.3, when instructing his sons. Those who are interested in becoming fully Krishna conscious, by developing their love of Godhead, are not interested in anything that is not related to the Lord. They give up the association of people who are simply absorbed in the bodily concept of life. They are not attached to their wives, children, friends, and possessions, even though they may be householders. Indeed, they endeavor to earn only enough money to maintain a simple existence. Text 70. According to the degree of love of God, there are three classes of devotees, Uttama, Madhyama, and Kanistha Adhikaris. So the word Adhikari it means qualification or qualified. So there are different qualities. So Uttama means the topmost. A lot of times things are divided up into three: the topmost thing, a medium thing, and a lower thing, or an initial thing. So here he's going to explain starting with the Uttamadhikari, the topmost qualified devotee. So text 71, in the 11th canto, 2nd chapter, 45th verse, Havi, which is who is one of the Navya Gendras, right, is speaking this verse. O king, one who sees the Supreme Lord within all living entities, and all living entities as being situated within the Supreme Lord, is an Uttama Bhagavata, topmost Bhagavata, Vaishnava. Text 72, one who realizes the existence of his worshipable Lord within all living entities and sees all living entities as being situated within the Supreme Lord, is considered to be a devotee on the highest platform. Text 73. In a conversation between Kapila and Devahuti found in Srimad Bhagavatam 3:25-22, it's stated, such a devotee has the determination to engage in devotional service to the Lord without deviation. For the sake of the Lord, he renounces his family, relationships, and friendships. His family, relationships, and friendships. Text 74, again, Havi speaking in Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 2nd chapter, 55th verse. The Supreme Lord is so kind upon the conditioned souls that if they call out to him by chanting his holy name, even unconsciously, he destroys innumerable sinful reactions within their hearts. What then to speak of a devotee who has taken shelter of the Lord's lotus feet and chants his holy name with devotion? A devotee who has thus captured the Supreme Lord within his heart is to be known as a Bhagavata Pradhana. Pradhana means the main, or Pradhana means the a main devotee. The most advanced devotee. The most advanced devotee. So those are all Brahmanas or quotes about the definition of a topmost Vaishnava. Now we come to the middle class of Vaishnava, the Madhyamadikari, in text 75. So here, Havi has again spoken in Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto, 2nd chapter, 46th verse. One who loves the Supreme Lord, makes friendship with his devotees, displays mercy to those who are ignorant, and avoids those who are envious of the Supreme Lord. He's known as the Madhyamadikari. So the Madhyamadikari, the middle class of Vaishnava, makes these distinctions. So he loves the Lord, so he knows who's the Lord, and then makes friends with the Lord's devotees. He displays his mercy on ignorant people and avoids non-Vaishnavas, avoids those who are envious of the Supreme Lord. So just one verse on that. It's a very important pramana here to know about Madhyamadikari, about the middle class Vaishnava. And then the Kanista Vaishnava or Kanistadikari, the lower type of Vaishnava, or the initial stage of Vaishnavism, let's say, right, is described here in text 76. A devotee who worships the deity in the temple, but does not know how to behave towards other devotees and people in general, is a Kanistadikari. So we can see, if we look at the Madhyamadikari, he has these relationships with four people. The Lord he worships, the Lord's devotees he becomes friends with, the ignorant people he displays mercy towards them, and the envious people of the Lord he avoids them. The Kanistadikari also has relationship with the Lord. He worships the Lord in the temple, but he sees the Lord only in the temple. He doesn't see the Lord within all living beings, as the Uttamadikari does, as the topmost Vaishnava does, or even the middle Vaishnava who worships the Lord, who sees the Lord's devotees, who sees the Lord actually within all people, but has to avoid certain people of being envious of the Lord, and display different types of relationship with people who are actually Vaishnavas and those who are not Vaishnavas, who are maybe just ignorant of Vaishnavism. Give them his mercy in the form of teaching them about Vaishnavism. So text 77 continues on about this beginning stage of Vaishnavism. When a devotee worships the Lord with faith, he is displaying the primary characteristic of one who aspires to attain love of God. So this is the first initial stage. The initial stage is that the devotee should have some faith and he should worship the Lord with state. Other qualities gradually develop as a natural consequence. So we can say, elsewhere in Hari Bhakti Vilasa, it also talks about a Vaishnava as being a person who worships Lord Vishnu, who worships Krishna, right? So anybody that worships Krishna is considered a Vaishnava, like that. Now, how he reacts to other people, that tells us what kind of Vaishnava he is. That tells us what platform, what level of Vaishnavism he has attained, level of service to the Lord. So other qualities will gradually develop as a natural consequence. So hopefully, if people take to the process of Vaishnavism correctly according to the scriptures, they will come from this initial stage of Kinistadikari, they will come up all the way to the topmost stage. Right, so text 78 and 79, again we're talking about the qualities of Vaishnavas. Among all the above mentioned symptoms of Mahabhagavatas, the topmost Vaishnavas, and devotees in general, some are primary and some are secondary. So there are some primary qualities or qualifications, and there are some secondary qualities or qualifications. Text 80. The number of people who possess these characteristics are very few. Just as invaluable jewels, such as touchstones, are very rare. The word touchstone is used here. Touchstone is an idea of some sort of stone that you could touch things with that would turn them into gold, or help as a catalyst to make lead into gold. This was an alchemist's idea. Anyways, it's an analogy saying that a Vaishnava is like that because when by his touch, by his preaching to others, he can also make others into Vaishnavas. He can turn them into golden type of people, wonderful people. And it says here that these are very few in number, the Vaishnavas. And this is confirmed also in the Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna says, Manushanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam viti tatpataha. That one who knows Krishna in truth is very rare. Out of thousands of people, one may endeavor to know Krishna. And out of thousands of people who are actually trying to know Krishna, hardly one knows him in truth. So the Vaishnavas who know Krishna and worship Krishna and love Krishna, they're very rare. So this is also confirmed by this verse, text 80. Text 81, in the Moksha Dharma, which is a section of Mahabharata. Oh, it says here Moksha Dharma section of Naradiya Purana, excuse me. So in the Moksha Dharma section of Naradiya Purana, this verse is found. One upon whom the Supreme Lord Madhusudana has cast his merciful glance is said to be situated in the mode of goodness. Such a person develops firm faith, firm determination to achieve devotional service. Right, so it's interesting here. They're saying that the Vaishnava, by the grace of God, the Vaishnava is situated in the mode of goodness. So how can we become situated in the mode of goodness? Only by the grace of God. And if we see somebody who's situated in the mode of goodness, we understand that the Lord has graced him with that. Very nice. Text 82. Thus the glorious principles of Vaishnavas have been briefly described. These are very brief descriptions and definitions of different levels of Vaishnavism. Thus, the principal glories of Vaishnavas have been briefly described. Now, some additional characteristics will be discussed. So here we have now a Mahatmyam, or a glorification of Bhagavad Bhaktanam. Bhaktanam is plural, means of Bhakti, of Bhaktas, of all devotees of the Lord. Bhagavad Bhaktanam. Atā Bhagavad Bhaktanam Mahatmyam. So the king of the demigods spoke this verse regarding the glories of the Lord's devotees, which can be found in the Glorification of Dwarka. If someone becomes a devotee of the Supreme Lord in the age of Kali, he will be able to beget a son who will give great satisfaction to his forefathers. Text 84. The aim of life in this age of Kali is to become a devotee of the Supreme Lord. Brihaspati informed me that the position of being a bhakta, devotee of the Supreme Lord, is superior to that of Rudra. Rudra. So Rudra or Lord Shiva is the Gunavatara of destruction in this world, and the Tama Gunavatar. And it's a very great post taken up in this material world. And so a bhakta of the Supreme Lord is considered greater than that, greater than even Rudra. Text 85, O sage, there is no doubt that those who constantly chant the holy name of the Lord are equal in every respect to the demigods. And in text 86, sage Markandeya has said, even the most sinful person who killed a Brahmana can attain the supreme destination if he's surrounded by Vaishnavas at the time of death. Okay, so this is interesting. They're saying that one should try to take the association of Vaishnavas, especially at the time of death. In the Bhagavad Gita also it's described about how we should try to remember the Lord at the time of death. So having Vaishnavas around us at the time of death is a way of helping to remember the Lord at the time of death. Whatever we remember at the time of death, that we will go to that. So what is it? Antakali smaran nityam. Antakali at the end. Smaran nityam. Right. But we also say, whatever you think of at the time of death, that will attain. Yeah. So anyway, text 87. In the Naradi Purana, there's a conversation between Vamandev and Rukmangada. And here's this verse from that. O foremost king, if a dog eater becomes a Vaishnava, then he's superior to a Brahmin who is not a devotee. However, even if a person in the renounced order of life, if he is devoid of devotional service to Lord Hari, he must be considered lower than a dog eater. Right? These are really good verses to explain that we have Brahmanas and sannyasis that are considered the topmost in the Varnashram system. Right? But a Vaishnava is greater than all these topmost positions in the Varnashram system. And if these people in the Varnashram system, who are considered so great in the Varnashram system, the material Varnashram system, such as a Brahmana or a sannyasi, if they're not Vaishnavas, then they're considered to be lower than dog eaters by Vaishnavas. So this gives you an understanding that there's a regular type of material social system and material Varnashram. And then there's what we call Daivi Varnashram, or there's the Vaishnava society and the rules of Vaishnava society, which are a little different. So text 88. Brahma has prayed in the Reva Kanda, Reva section of the Skanda Purana as follows. O Lord Keshava, if you are pleased, then even a dog eater can come to the platform of Indra, Shiva, Brahma, or even the Supreme Lord. You can become qualitatively, as a Vaishnava, one becomes qualitatively equal to the Supreme Lord, but not, of course, quantitatively, because we're very small. The individual soul is very small. But we get the same, some of the different types of moksha are explained in the Bhagavatam. Sarupya, to have a form which is just like the Supreme Lord, to have opulence is just like the Supreme Lord. Okay, so continuing on with text 89 to 93. O Lord Achyuta, if you become displeased, then even demigods like Brahma and Shiva can fall to a position lower than dog eaters. O Lord Achyuta, your devotees certainly appreciate the importance of religious principles. One who does not engage in your devotional service will certainly become contaminated by all kinds of sinful activities. This is the verdict of the scriptures. O Achyuta, O Hari, even the sinful activities performed by your devotees are counted as pious activities, whereas the pious activities performed by non-devotees are considered to be sinful. So even a sin committed by a great devotee is considered a pious activity, whereas even pious activities performed by non-devotees, non-Vaishnavas, they're considered to be sinful. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, O Janardana, one who's devoid of your devotional service lives in hell. On the other hand, one who has devotion to your lotus feet becomes purified even if he was a killer of a Brahmin. Unalloyed devotional service unto you is glorified as being superior to mere liberation. There is no doubt that your devotees are already acting on the liberated platform. It's interesting here that I mentioned that devotional service to the Lord is considered, unalloyed devotional service to the Lord is glorified as being superior to liberation. Of course, the liberation which is being spoken of here is a passive sort of liberation like Kaivalya, where one simply enjoys the bliss of the soul or the bliss of the self, which is called Brahmananda, which is considered a very small form of bliss compared to the bliss of other forms of liberation where we engage actively in an active relationship with the Supreme Lord of service. So active service to the Supreme Lord is that there are many other forms of liberation like that. So text 94, in a conversation between Durvasa and Narada Muni, recorded in the Skanda Purana, it's said, O great sage, according to the order of Lord Hari, who is always situated within their hearts, the devotees who are very expert in delivering the fallen conditioned souls, wander throughout this material world. Continuing on, O Narada, just to afford them protection, the Supreme Lord Janardana appears within this world as a devotee and compassionately preaches to the conditioned souls. So this is also mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, that Krishna says that he descends to this material world, paritranaya sadhuna, to protect the devotees, right? Just to afford them protection, the Supreme Lord Janardana appears in this world as a devotee, compassionately preaches to the conditioned soul. Text 96 and 97, there's a conversation between Brahma and Narada, which is recorded in the Skanda Purana, that says, those who display firm devotion to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, who are naturally inclined to worship Lord Hari, and who have learned to control their senses, can attain the supreme abode of Lord Vishnu, despite maintaining an ordinary household life. A person who has performed 1 million horse sacrifices cannot obtain the merit of that a devotee of Lord Hari receives. Text 98 and 99. In a conversation between Yamaraj and his messengers, the Yamadutas, which is found in the Amrita Sarodhara. Amrita Sarodhara. Not familiar with that scripture exactly. It may be a section of the Purana. But anyway, everywhere, whether it be heaven, earth, or hell, Vaishnavas are worshipable by demigods, human beings, and demons. There's no doubt that simply by remembering the lotus feet of an exalted Vaishnava, even hundreds and millions of sinful reactions are destroyed. Text 100 to 101. How can I describe the glories of the Charanamrita of those devotees? So the water that's washed the feet of those Vaishnavas. The dust of whose feet is as sanctified as the water of the Yamuna, the Ganga, the Ganges, and the Narmada, as is the water in the form of glorification of Lord Hari emanating from their mouths, in which everyone can bathe without traveling to the innumerable holy places of pilgrimage. So it's a very nice way of putting it here. The analogy here is that the Vaishnavas, the words about Krishna Katha and about Lord Vishnu glorifying Lord Krishna coming out of the mouths of Vaishnavas is just like the holy water that emanates that flows in the Yamuna, the Ganga, the Narmada, these holy rivers, which can wash away our sins and purify us. So not only does the actual water that's washed the feet of such Vaishnavas become very sacred to us, just like the Charanamrita, which is washed the feet of the Lord, even greater than that, right? Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnu Maradhanam param tasmat paradhanam devi tariyanam sācharam. What is related to the Supreme Lord, which is the Vaishnavas, his devotees. So their foot water, their Charanamrita, which is considered very holy, in Ramanuja Sampradaya Sri Vaishnavism, they call this Sri Pada Tirtha. So the Tirtha the word Tirtha is considered, which means holy waters, right? Is the Charanamrita which is taken in the temple of the Supreme Lord. The Sri Pada Tirtha is the water that's washed or used to worship the Guru, right? Is used in washing the feet of the Guru or the Vaishnavas. Right. So here, two analogies are here. One is that one discussion here is about the actual water which washes the feet of the devotees, and the other is the water-like, the holy water-like words that come out of the mouth of Vaishnavas, which purify people just in the same way as they would if they would go to a holy river and take a bath. Nice. Text 102 to 103. While describing the glories of Chaturmasya, the same literature states, the same literature means this was coming from Amrita Sarodhara, which I believe is probably some part of some Purana. It says, until a son who has devotion for the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord is born, the forefathers of that family wander about this world, being attached to the offering of oblations. Only the devotees of Lord Hari who are actually famous as persons of great knowledge, perfect yogis, and renowned performers of sacrifice. So the idea, the words for son in Sanskrit is putra, who is considered to be a type of hell, and tra means triate, or means to deliver. So a putra is supposed to be a son, is supposed to deliver the parents from hell by performing the rituals after the parents' death, the funeral and the different shraddha ceremonies after their death, and the tarpanas and other rituals which are performed post-death, like which are called apada karmas. So in this way, he delivers them from hell. They don't have to be in this hellish condition of wandering around this world in limbo, in a subtle body called an ativahika body. The soul achieves an ativahika body after it's burned in the funeral pyre. But it's very frustrated because unless these apara karmas are performed, he doesn't have proper senses to enjoy in that ativahika body, and is not promoted to becoming a preta or a pitri, and going to pitri loka and enjoying where the ancestors should actually live and accept these different oblations. So what it's saying here that the normal idea is that if anybody performs these pious activities, that the forefathers will enjoy in pitri loka. But in fact, unless they're Vaishnavas, unless the progeny are Vaishnavas, they can't satisfy the forefathers. So we also saw it mentioned here in Hari Bhakti Vilasa that the Shraddha ceremony has to be done with Krishna Prasadam, right? Not just ordinary rice balls, which are offered, pinda, which are offered to the forefathers in the Shraddha, but Krishna Prasadam. And that a Vaishnava should do it. Vaishnavas should be engaged to perform the Shraddha ceremony. And this will satisfy the Supreme Lord with Vaishnava Prasadam. This will satisfy the forefathers. And whereas ordinary types of Shraddha, which are not performed in this way, not performed by Vaishnavas, is not satisfying to the forefathers. So, text 104 to 105. As the characteristics of Dhruva are described in the Kashi Kanda, these verses are found. This may be also from a Purana, which describes the story of Dhruva Maharaj. So, even if there's a total annihilation of the universe, the minds of great devotees of the Lord remain steady. There is no question of fear for the liberated devotees of Lord Hari. Nor do they cause fear for others. Like the Supreme Lord, they travel everywhere just to deliver the fallen conditioned souls. Okay, so it's interesting here, it's talking about the dissolution of the universe. Dhruva was given the benediction by the Lord, because initially Dhruva, the story of Dhruva was that he was born the son of a king, but he was not the favorite son of the king, and he wanted to ascend the throne, and he wanted to take over the kingdom after his father passed away. And in order to do that, in order to get the favor of the king, he went to ask Lord Vishnu. He performed austerities to get Lord Vishnu to grant him that wish. So by the time he finished his austerities, of course, he became a pure devotee of the Lord, and he didn't want the material kingdom anymore. But the Lord realized that this was the initial wish that he came to the Lord to get fulfilled. So he fulfilled that wish also by giving him a special planet called the Dhruvaloka, or the pole star. And that planet is supposed to remain even after the total annihilation of the universe. That is an eternal planet. So here it's said here, even when there's a total annihilation of the universe. So when we hear something like that, in regards to a story about Dhruva Maharaj, we can understand that it's very appropriate to that story. Text 106 and 107, a little bit later in the same literature, it's mentioned, a devotee of Lord Hari becomes famous as the foremost person in all human society, irrespective of his varna and ashrama. Right, so does it say here, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Va. So va, the word Va in Sanskrit means or. So we're talking here about whether that person be a Brahman, Vaishya, Kshatriya, or Sudra. Vaishya, right? Brahman, Vaishya, Kshatriya, or Sudra. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also talks about this. He also is quoted. He has a famous verse that he quotes where he says, I don't belong to any of these categories, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Sudra, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanapasta, Sannyasi, and in so many examples in Chaitanya Charanamrita, the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rejected the whole idea of being very attached to these different categories in the Varnashram system. He rejected it in his talks with Ramananda Roy, and he rejected it also when he was in Udupi, when he was discussing with the Tattvavadis, the followers of Madhvacharya. He said, no, Varnashram is not the way. Vaishnavism is higher than Varnashram, and therefore we should think on these higher spiritual principles like that. So here it's saying a devotee of the Lord becomes famous as the foremost person in all human society, irrespective of his varna and ashrama. There's no question of sinful activities for a great soul whose body is decorated with the symbols of conch and disc, whose head is adorned with tulsi manjaris, and whose forehead is decorated with the gopi chandana, tilak, or the udva kunda, Vaishnava markings. So now, later on, text 108 from the Mahabharata in the Rajya Dharma section. Rajya Dharma seems to be a section about the duties of kings, or the activities, pious activities of kings, right? The devotees of Lord Hari, under whose supervision the material nature is working, and who is the original cause of creation and destruction, easily cross beyond the insurmountable ocean of material existence. So because we are Vaishnavas, the Vaishnavas are devotees of Lord Hari, and Lord Hari is the one who supervises the material nature working, the whole material nature working, supervises its creation, destruction, and its maintenance, right? Therefore, they alone can cross over, because they are devotees of the person who runs the whole show, this material universe. Text 109 from the Vishnu Dharmottara, it's stated, if one chants the holy names of Lord Madhusudana after waking up in the early morning, all of one's sinful reactions are completely destroyed. That's nice. So he'd say, Kirtayen Madhusudanam. Right? Sayanad Utto, right? After lying down, one utito, one getting up from lying down, right? One should chant the name of Madhusudana. And then Papani Nasyamanti, right? These all his sins are destroyed by that kirtan, by that chanting. Nice. Text 110. In the same literature, which is Vishuddhamottara, right? It says, "O foremost personality, whether in the heavenly planets on earth or in the hellish planets, there is no one superior to a person who is fully engaged in the devotional service of Lord Hari, who is unlimited, the controller of the universe, a descendant of the Yadu dynasty and the Lord of the demigods." Specifically talking about Krishna as a descendant of the Yadu dynasty. Text 111, in the Dwarka Mahatmyam, the glorification of Dwarka, there's a conversation between Prahlad and Bali, right? As follows: O King Bali, one who chants the holy names of exalted Vaishnavas after getting up every morning is to be considered an exalted devotee on the level of Krishna. So normally, when we get up in the morning, then we should do what is called the Guru Parampara Anusandhanam. We should meditate upon the Guru, of course, after taking bath. Okay, we meditate upon the Guru Parampara, which is all the great devotees of our lineage, of our spiritual lineage. Text 112 from the Hari Bhakti Shuddhodaya. It is stated, to remove the darkness of ignorance from the world, from the people of this world, as a lamp illuminates the night, exalted Vaishnavas, whose characteristics are sublime, and who are as good as the deity of Lord Hari, allow themselves to be seen, touched, and worshipped by others. Sometimes great saintly people, they don't like to touch other people because they don't want to become contaminated from other sinful people. But the Vaishnavas have great compassion for other people. They allow themselves to be seen, even touched, even worshipped by others. And as stated here, these Vaishnavas are considered as good as the deity of Lord Hari, because they're qualitatively equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. And of course, again, not quantitatively, but qualitatively, they're like touchstones also. By coming in contact with them, one becomes purified and one becomes just like gold. So, text 113 in the Itihasa Samuchaya. Itihasa Samuchaya is I don't know why they put a comma here in the translation. The actual name of the text is Itihasa Samuchaya, which is a compilation of verses from the Itihasas, which are Mahabharata and Ramayana, are the two Itihasas or epics. So Sage Lomash, and I've spoken this verse from Itihasa Samuchaya. O King, the pure devotees who worship the eternal form of Lord Vasudeva, the primeval cause of the universe, are certainly the best holy places because there is nothing more pure than them. Text 114, 115. O King, know for certain that any place where pure devotees of the Supreme Lord bathe is the best of all holy places because they immediately destroy all kinds of sinful reactions. Indeed, Lord Hari always resides there, always resides where his pure devotees who are without material attachments live. Right. So the Lord says this, that there's a statement. I forget the Sanskrit right now, but anyway, where the Lord says, "I'm not in Vaikuntha. I'm not in so many places, but I am exactly where my devotees are. Where my devotees are chanting my name, or where my devotees are congregating together. That's where I want to be. That's where I am." So text 116, 117. Lord Hari does not reside in a place where there are no Vaishnavas, even if he is worshipped with offerings of sandal paste, water, and fragrant flowers. Right? Lord Hari does not feel pleased to remain in a place where there are no Vaishnavas, even if he is opulently worshipped by people who observe fasting while chanting and dancing. So even offering all of these wonderful things and chanting and dancing and even observing so many fasts, the Lord isn't interested in all those things. What he's interested in is the association of his loving devotees. Text 118. For this reason, exalted Vaishnavas are able to purify the entire world. In fact, they are more sanctified than even the holy places of pilgrimage. Text 119. Whether a devotee is a Shudra, a hunter, or a dog eater, one who considers him according to his birth will certainly go to reside in hell, right? So there's also, this is considered to be jati buddhi, all right? It's a wrong form of thinking where one sees the external defects of the birth, caste or creed or gender or whatever it is that we feel are defective in a person, if that person is a Vaishnava. If that person's a Vaishnava, then he's considered great. If we consider Vaishnavas material qualifications or social qualifications or disqualifications, then we become a resident of hell. There's another nice quotation from Prabhupada mentions from Padma Purana, Arche Vishnu Shiladir, and there are listed so many offensive types of mentality. This is an offensive type of mentality, to look at the Vaishnava and to look at him in social terms, like that this person, like for instance, Haridas Thakur was born in a Muslim family, therefore we have to consider him a Lord Vaishnava because he was born in a Muslim family. This is not correct Vaishnava perception. So text 120. Therefore, if one wants to please Lord Hari, you should first try to please the Vaishnavas. If the Vaishnavas are pleased with a person, then certainly Lord Hari will also be pleased. Right? Even in the Guru Vasana it says, if you please the spiritual master, you'll please God. If you don't please the spiritual master, then you can't please God. Okay. So in a conversation between Narada and Pundarika, that's found in the same literature, these verses are found. The same literature was, I believe, is it from Itihasa Samitra? Looks like. Okay, so it says, just by associating with pure devotees, just by associating with pure devotees who are unwavering in their inclination to serve Lord Narayana, even cruel, sinful, and wretched people can attain a transcendental abode, Vaikuntha. Vaishnavas, with pure attachment to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, never indulge in sinful activities. They are just like the rising sun because they're able to illuminate the entire world with transcendental knowledge. Text 123 to 124. One who after countless lifetimes realizes, I'm an eternal servant of Lord Vasudeva. Right? Here it said, Dasoham Vasudevasya. Right? Dasoham. I am the servant of Vasudeva. Dasoham Vasudevasya. Sarvan Lokan Samudharet. These are nice verses. Janmantara Sahasreshu Yasyasya Bhudir Idrishi. Dasoham Vasudevasya Sarvan Lokan Samudharet. Sayati Vishnu Salokyam Purusho Natra Samshayaha. Kim Punastadgata Pranaha Purusha Samyatendriyaha. Nice. Okay. So one who after countless lifetimes realizes I'm an eternal servant of Lord Vasudeva is able to deliver all the people of the world. There's no doubt that such a person will go to associate with the Lord in his supreme abode. Right? Vishnu Salokyam, in the same abode. Right? Sri Vaikuntha. What then can be said of a person whose life and soul is Lord Hari and who has conquered his senses? It's also said, text 125, O foremost Brahmana, simply by remembering a pure devotee of the Lord, conversing with him and worshipping him, one can become purified without separate endeavor, even though he may have been born in the family of dog eaters. Right? So in a normal social system, a person who's a Brahmin or a person who's a higher class person, he would not associate with people from the family of dog eaters who are called swapacha. In Sanskrit, swa means dog and pacha means to cook. So swapacha is a dog cooker. I wonder if the word is used here. Chandala. Here is using the word chandala. It's another word for a low-class person. The direct word for dog here, though, is swapacha. Okay, continuing on with text 126. Srila Vyasadeva has said, simply by having the darshan of a pure devotee of Lord Vishnu, all of one's sinful reactions are burned to ashes. Even if a devotee had committed innumerable sinful acts in thousands of previous births, he will not have to suffer their reactions. So the devotees of the Lord are freed from the sinful reactions of all of the previous births. This is again what Lord Krishna was telling to Arjuna. If you simply surrender unto me, right, I'll sarvapape bhyo mokshayishami. I will liberate you from all the reactions to sinful activities. Sarvapape bhyo mokshayishami. Right, sarvapape bhyo means all sinful reactions. Right, so all sinful reactions, and there, all sinful reactions mean past, present, future. All sinful reactions. So again, from Itihasa Samuchaya, the Supreme Lord has spoken. There's a quotation from that book. Even though a person is a very learned scholar in Sanskrit Vedic literatures, he is not accepted as my devotee unless he is pure in devotional service. However, even though a person is born in the family of dog eaters, he is very dear to me. If he is a pure devotee who has no motive to enjoy fruitive activity or mental speculation. Indeed, all respect should be given to him, and whatever he offers should be accepted. Such devotees are as worshipable as I am. This is what the Lord says. Text 128. Brahma has stated in the same literature, which again is Itihasa Samuchaya, right? Whether a woman is married or a widow, if she's fully engaged in devotional service of Lord Vishnu, she can deliver 100 generations of her family. Text 129. This verse appears in the conversation between Prahlad and Bali, found in the Glories of Dwarka, the Dwarka Mahatmya. Even one who's born in a low-class family, if he becomes a devotee of Lord Madhusudana, he can become supremely pure, whereas a Brahmana who is devoid of devotional service to the Lord is to be considered as no better than a mlecha. And the word mlecha is directly used in the third line of this verse. In the Adi Purana, there's a conversation between Krishna and Arjuna, and it's said, O son of Prita, this is Lord Krishna speaking, what is the need of worshipping the demigods? It will be far better if you engage in worship of advanced Vaishnavas, because such great souls are capable of purifying the entire world, along with the demigods. I'm easily available to one who considers himself to be a devotee of my devotees. One who is dear to my devotees is also very dear to me. O Dhananjaya, I promise you that there is no one more dear to me than my devotee. The devotees are the spiritual masters of the entire world, and I am the spiritual master of the devotees. As I am the spiritual master of everyone, so are my devotees. The devotees are my friends, and I am the friend of my devotees. The devotees of my spiritual masters, and I am their spiritual master. O Arjuna, I follow my devotees wherever they go. Indeed, even personified liberation in the Vedas follow my exalted devotees. Text 133 to 134. Those who claim that they are my devotees are not actually my devotees. But those who are the devotees of my devotees are factually my devotees. Right. So we shouldn't. What to speak of claiming to be the Supreme Lord? We have some crazy people who claim to be God. But even the people who claim to be devotees of God are not actually devotees of God. It's only those persons who claim to be the devotees of God, of the devotees of God, who claim to serve the devotees of God. These are factually my devotees, the Lord says. I have sold myself to the devotees who have taken shelter of me, giving up their friends and relatives. Only my devotees can purchase me in this way. Text 135 to 136. So, son of Kunti, hear from me about the food a devotee should eat. There are two kinds of prasada. Prasada meaning mercy, directly means mercy, but it means the food stuffs or those things which are offered to the Supreme Lord and taken by us after being offered to him first, accepted by us. The food that has been offered directly to the Supreme Lord is called Mahaprasada. Mahaprasada. Whereas the food that remains in the cooking pots is considered to be prasad, right? So we have this idea that sometimes the whole cooking pot is taken and offered to the Supreme Lord directly, but sometimes some of the food is taken and it's offered on a plate. What is offered to the Supreme Lord, that is usually called Mahaprasadam directly, and what is kept in the pots of the cooking pots to be served out later to the devotees, right? That is considered, spoken of as prasad. So we have prasad and Mahaprasad. One who is fallen and lowborn takes to the chanting of my holy names, if I become very pleased with him. One who is fallen and lowborn, if one who is fallen and lowborn takes to the chanting of my holy names, I become very pleased with him. Indeed, I do not experience such happiness even when the Vedas are recited by expert orators. So, in text 137, there's a conversation between the Supreme Lord spoke this verse to Markandeya, as found in the Brihad Purana. The devotees of Lord Vishnu are considered by him to be his relatives. This has often been declared by the demigods, because the words of my servants must not prove false. I carefully ensure that this statement remains true. So the Lord actually feels his devotees to be like related to him, like that. Sometimes people say that the priests in the temple are considered to be like the sons of the Lord, and those who visit the temple, they're considered to be like the other relatives of the Lord. Like that. So, O foremost stage, the entire dynasty in which I appear attains liberation from material bondage. Know for certain that if I am pleased with someone, there is nothing that cannot be achieved by him. So here, this verse coming directly after the idea that the Lord considers them, all his devotees, to be his relatives, he's then saying, I give liberation to all those personalities too, in my dynasty, in my family, my relatives. Meaning my devotees. Text 139 to 140, my devotees are fully surrendered to me. They have faith in the narrations of my pastimes. They constantly meditate upon me. They work for my satisfaction. They offer their obeisances to me, and they always remember me. Such devotees can deliver all of their family members so that they attain the same bodily features as the Lord, which is called Swarupya Mukti. Right? Achyuta Rupatam. Achyuta Rupatam. It's in Nayanti, Achyuta Rupatam is the fourth line in both of these verses. Nice. Continuing on text 141, O foremost sage, you should understand that I appear as a covered incarnation in the form of a devotee, and in this way protect the universe. Aham eva dvija shreshta. So shreshta means the topmost, dvija means Brahman or means twice-born person. Yeah, dvija. Dvi means two, ja means birth. So I'm also this greatest of the dvijas, the greatest of the Brahmins. Nityam pachana vigraha bhagavad bhakta rupena lokan Raksami Sarvada, right? And I protect the entire world. Where is this coming from? This is from Brihad Purana. Nice. So continuing on in the same Purana, Brihad Purana, Sudha Goswami has spoken these while glorifying Aditi. Sudha Goswami has said this verse: O Brahmanas, hear now about the glories of the devotees of Lord Hari. Even if a devotee who is absorbed in thinking of Lord Hari accidentally commits a sin, he will not have to suffer the consequences. Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahadeva, and other demigods, and perfected beings always reside in the place where the devotees of Lord Hari stay. Text 144. The place where a devotee of Lord Vishnu stays, even for a moment or for a fraction of a moment, is glorified as an abode of all auspiciousness and all holy places, and a sanctified hermitage. Text 145. Devotees who have taken shelter of me, being freed from material attachment and hatred, as well as pride and envy, engage themselves in glorifying my transcendental names, forms, qualities, and pastimes. It's nice here. Raga dvesha vihina ye means giving up raga and dvesha, material attachment and hatred. Mad bhakta, mad parayanaha. Right, my devotees who glorify me. Vadanti, they chant, satatam, all the time, about me. Gatasuya, Adam, Adambika. Text 146. I reside within the hearts of those who take pleasure in worshipping my devotees, who never harm others, and who always display an eagerness for hearing my glories. Text 147. The Vishnu Dutas, the servants of messengers of Lord Vishnu, spoke this verse in connection to the glories of hoisting a flag atop a temple. Normally, this is called Dwaja Arohanam, where we hoist a flag to the top of the flagpole of the temple. And this can be done every day, but in Pancharatra temples, sometimes this is done at the beginning of a festival, which takes more than one day, like that. So at the beginning of the festival, they'll hoist the flag and worship the flag with the Garuda on it. And at the end, they'll bring the flag down. This is called Dwaja Arohanam and Dwaja Avarohanam. Putting the flag up and putting the flag down. So the merciful glance of those who are engaged in the devotional service of Lord Hari, and especially those devotees who are in the renounced order of life, even the most sinful people can attain the supreme destination by the merciful glance of the devotees. Nice. Yatina means of sannyasis. And Vishnu Bhaktana means of the devotees of Lord Vishnu. Text 148. In reply to the question of how one can please the Supreme Lord, the following verse was spoken in the same literature. Miscreants cannot harm devotees of Lord Vishnu. Inauspicious planets cannot cause them any distress. Demons are incapable of swallowing them. And then it says, one who executes unflinching devotional service unto Janardana, the Supreme Lord, the Lord of the demigods, achieves all auspiciousness. Those who are devoted to the Supreme Lord should be considered the best members of society. The foremost sage, even the demigods headed by Brahma, cannot properly understand the glories of Lord Hari's devotees. And it's also said, in text 151, there is no doubt that only devotees of Lord Vishnu obtain the four objects of life, right? Religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. The Purusharthas. Dharmartha kama moksha kyaha. Purushartha dvijottamaha. Hari bhakti parayanam. Paranam vai, excuse me. Sampadyate na shamshayaha. Nice. Text 152 to 153. In the beginning of the story of Luvdaka, in the same Purana, these verses are to be found. Those who are attached to Lord Vishnu, who are peaceful, who are benefactors of all they come in contact with, and who are merciful to all living entities, are glorified as non-different from Lord Hari. So they're qualitatively the same as the Supreme Lord. Those who are devoid of devotional service to Lord Hari are considered to be no better than dog eaters, whereas those who are fixed in devotional service to Lord Hari are considered to be the foremost members of human society, even if they are born in the family of dog eaters. Text 154 to 156. Sri Sutta spoke these verses while discussing Yagyadvaja in the same literature. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the devotees who take pleasure in relishing the mellows of devotional service to Lord Vishnu. Simply by their association, one can achieve liberation. Whether they are formerly miscreant or pious souls, I offer my repeated obeisances unto those who are attached to the devotional service of Lord Hari and are engaged in chanting his holy names. Alas, how fortunate are the devotees of Lord Hari! Simply by their mercy, even great yogis attain liberation, which is very rarely achieved. And regarding Kali, in the same literature, it is stated, there is no doubt that only the devotees of Lord Vasudeva will achieve ultimate success in human life when the formidable age of Kali, right, in which religious principles are almost totally neglected, commences. It is said that in the age of Kali, devotional service to Lord Hari is extremely rare. Those great souls who are fixed in devotion to Lord Hari are never bound by the strong ropes of sinful activities. People who are fond of studying the Vedas and traveling to the holy places of pilgrimage do not receive even 1/16 the merit attained by the devotees of Lord Hari. Regarding the glories of Bharatavarsha, right, Greater India, the demigods have stated, we respectfully adore the great personalities who are very dear to the devotees of Lord Hari, who are engaged in the service of such great souls, or who take pleasure in glorifying the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Lord Hari. In a conversation between the Supreme Lord and Brahma that is recorded in Padma Purana, these verses are found. Just as fish, tortoises, and birds maintain their offspring by means of seeing, meditating, and touch, I maintain my devotees. Although I am capable of eliminating the demons within a second, I act as I choose for the satisfaction of my devotees. Continuing on, text 163 to 166, in the conversation between Devaduta and Vikundala, which is recorded in the section called Magha Mahatmyam, the glories of the month of Magha. In the same Purana, these verses are found. I make this promise again and again. I make this promise again and again. Satyam Satyam Mayoditam. Right. I make this promise again and again. Vaishnavas will never have to see Yamaraj or go to his domain to be punished by my servants. One should consider a Brahmana who is devoid of devotional service of Lord Vishnu to be lower than a dog eater. Even if a Vaishnava comes from a family of outcasts, he can purify the three worlds simply by his presence. The devotees of the Supreme Lord should never be considered Shudras, but rather they should be glorified as exalted personalities, members of any of the four Varnas who are devoid of devotional service to Lord Keshava. They are certainly no better than Sudras. O Vaishya, those who are proud of being servants of Lord Vishnu, and those who honor the remnants of food eaten by a Vaishnava will never be overwhelmed by Maya. Indeed, they will attain the destination of those who are great performers of sacrifice. Text 167. The Pancha Purusha have spoken, five personalities, have spoken this verse that is found in the Vaishaka Mahatmyam, the glories of the month of Vaishaka, in the same literature. Just to benefit all living entities, the devotees of Lord Hari wander throughout this world. It is therefore said, text 168, saintly persons are the only shelter for those who are suffering due to the sinful activities they have previously performed. Simply by the darshan of a saintly person, a sinful person's distress can be at once dispelled. Text 169 to 170. In the conversation between Shiva and Parvati that is recorded in the Uttarakhanda, right, of the same literature, these verses are found. Vaishnavas are freed from the cycle of repeated birth and death, which is a result of karma. learned authorities describe devotional service to Lord Hari as the platform of liberation. Therefore, it must be concluded that devotional service to Lord Hari can never be the cause of one's material bondage. The servants of Lord Hari are always free from contamination, as well as from all kinds of material entanglement. Chitragupta spoke these verses while describing the glories of the Janmastami Vrata, or the vow of observing Lord Krishna's birthday, as found in the Brahmana Purana. Simply by their darshan, touch, conversation, and association, the devotees of Lord Hari purify even dog eaters. Those who take shelter of the devotees of Lord Vishnu become free from all kinds of suffering, even though they may not observe proper etiquette, and are formally engaged in all kinds of sinful activities. In the Vishishta, in the text called Vishishta, it is also stated, one should never reside in a barren district where there are no trees in the form of devotees who provide cooling shade to everyone, and where there are no persons who are conversant with the science of the absolute truth. One should always try to live in the association of devotees. Even if the devotees do not give one personal instructions, one should accept their writings and conversation as their guide. Text 175 to 176 in the Garuda Purana, it's stated, amongst thousands of persons engaged in performing austerities, one who is conversant with Vedic knowledge is best. However, a devotee of Lord Vishnu is superior to millions of persons who know Vedanta. An unalloyed Vaishnava is superior to 1,000 ordinary Vaishnavas. Unalloyed Vaishnavas alone are qualified to achieve the ultimate goal of life. Text 177 to 179. Even if one who is constantly engaged in my devotional service is found to commit some abominable act, he is certainly considered saintly. Abhichet Sudracharo Bhajate Mamananyavat. This comes from the Bhagavad Gita. Such a person quickly becomes purified and attains lasting peace, O son of Kunti. Declare it to the world. My devotee never perishes. So this is interesting. So we have here, does it say here? It says from Garuda Purana. I wonder if it's there also there in Garuda Purana, or whether this also is just from Bhagavad Gita, but it's not being said in Bhagavad Gita. Even those born in low families, women, Vaishyas, and Shudras can attain the supreme destination by taking shelter of me. Therefore, what to speak of devotees who are born in the pious Brahmana and Kshatriya family? So this is coming from the 9th chapter, 32nd, 33rd verse, right, of Bhagavad Gita. So text 180. In the same literature, it says, Yoginam api sarvisham madhyaten antaratmana Shadavan Bhajite Yomam Same Yukta Tamo Mataha. This is at the end of the 6th chapter. Those who worship me with faith, their minds dwelling in me, are considered by me to be the topmost yogis. So, text 181, King Parikshit spoke the following verse, which is found in the 1st canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Simply by remembering you, our place of residence becomes immediately purified. Then what to speak of seeing you, touching you, washing your feet, and offering you a place to sit? Right. Text 182. In the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Vidura spoke the following verse. Persons who attentively hear from their spiritual master over a long period of time must hear about the glories of pure devotional service. Pure devotees always meditate upon the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, who reciprocates by awarding them liberation. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, and there's Kapila Dev gives this instruction to Devahuti. My dear mother, the opulence attained by devotees is never lost over the passage of time, because devotees accept me as their friend, relative, son, preceptor, benefactor, and supreme deity. They are never deprived of their possessions. Text 184. Dhruva spoke this verse, which is found in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. My Lord, the transcendental ecstasy one feels by meditating upon your lotus feet or hearing about your glories is far beyond the happiness of Brahmananda or merging into the impersonal effulgence of the Supreme Lord. This is the Kaivalya Mukti that I was talking about, right, where one only attains some small amount of bliss of the self, of the individual self, without knowing the active relationship of service, which is the bliss of serving the Supreme Lord. What then can be said of the temporary happiness obtained by elevating oneself to the heavenly planets, which ends in due course of time? Rudra, or Shiva, has stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, one who properly executes his occupational duty for 100 births becomes qualified to occupy the post of Brahma, Chaturmukha Brahma, four-headed Brahma, the creator of the universe. If he becomes even more qualified, he can become an associate of Lord Shiva. The person who surrendered to Lord Vishnu can attain the spiritual world. A person who has surrendered to Lord Vishnu can attain the spiritual world. Lord Shiva and the other demigods attain these planets after the annihilation of the universe. So Jad Bharat, right? This is fifth canto, I believe, of the Bhagavatam. Stated in Srimad Bhagavatam. My dear King Rahugana, unless one smears his body with the dust of the lotus feet of a great devotee, he cannot realize the absolute truth. One cannot realize the absolute truth simply by observing celibacy, strictly following the rules and regulations prescribed for householders, accepting the vows of vanaprastha and sannyas, or undergoing severe austerities by keeping oneself submerged in water in the winter or surrounding oneself by fire in summer. The absolute truth is only realized by one who has received the mercy of a pure devotee. So this surrounding of oneself with fires is what I said. There's 4 fires on each side, and above is the sun, the burning sun of summer. This is called Panchagni Kriya. So then, continuing on, text 187 to 189. King Parikshit spoke this verse, which is found in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. There are innumerable living entities within the material world, just as there are countless atoms. Among all the living entities, only a few are interested in understanding the goal of life. Among all such people, only a few actually desire to become liberated from material entanglement. Most of those who endeavor for liberation fail to attain success. Among thousands of such people, very rarely is it seen that someone actually gives up family life and material association to inquire about the absolute truth. And among millions of liberated souls, only a very few are seen to be devotees of Lord Narayana. Text 190, Shiva spoken the following in Srimad Bhagavatam. For those who are engaged in the devotional service of Lord Narayana, heaven, hell, and liberation appear all the same. There is no situation that can cause fear to a pure devotee of the Lord. In the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Prahlad says, unless they smear upon their bodies the dust of the lotus feet of a Vaishnava who is completely freed from material contamination, materialistic persons cannot be attached to the lotus feet of the Lord, who is glorified for his glorious pastimes. Only by becoming Krishna conscious can one become freed from material bondage. And he's also spoken this verse, that is Prahlad. If a Brahmana possesses all 12 Brahminical qualifications, but is averse to the lotus feet of the Lord, he must certainly be considered inferior to the devotee born in the family of dog eaters, who has dedicated his mind, words, and activities and wealth to the Supreme Lord. Such a devotee can purify his whole family, whereas a non-devotee Brahmana cannot even purify himself. In the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Gajendra has spoken the following verse, Gajendra, the Lord of the Elephants. Only those who demand nothing from the Supreme Lord and who worship him with undivided devotion dive into the ocean of transcendental ecstasy while chanting his glories. Text 194 to 198. In the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 9.463 to 66 and 68, the Supreme Lord has spoken the following verses. The Supreme Lord said, I am not independent because I am completely under the control of my devotees. Because my devotees are devoid of material desires, I reside within their hearts. What to speak of my devotee? Even those who are devotees of my devotee are very dear to me. The foremost Brahmana without my pure devotees, from whom I am the only destination. I could not even consider enjoying my supreme opulence. because my pure devotees give up their homes, wives, children, relatives, wealth, and their very lives to serve me. How could I possibly neglect them at any time? As chaste women bring their husbands under control by means of submission and service, my pure devotees are equal to everyone and completely attached to me within their heart, who are equal to everyone and completely attached to me within their heart, bring me under their control. The pure devotee is always within my heart, and I am always in the heart of my pure devotee. My devotees do not know anything but me, and I do not know anything but them. Sage Durvasa has spoken the following verses in Srimad Bhagavatam 9.5.15. There is nothing difficult to achieve for those great souls who have captured Lord Hari, the master of all saintly persons, by means of their love and devotion. All desires are fulfilled for the servants of Lord Vishnu, whose holy names, when heard, purify one of all contamination. And in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 10.2.33, the Supreme Lord has stated, the demigods offering this prayer to the Supreme Lord have stated, O Lord Madhava, if your devotees sometimes fall from the path of devotional service, they do not come down to the level of the non-devotees because you give them all protection. They fearlessly overcome all opposition and continue the progress of devotional service. Shukadeva Goswami spoke this verse, which is found in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.9.21. O son of Nanda, the son of Nanda is easily available for those who have surrendered themselves to engage in his devotional service. However, he is not available to the ascetics who accept their bodies as their self, and to the impersonalists who falsely consider themselves to be liberated. The Supreme Lord spoke this following verse, which is found in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.10.41. When one comes out into the sunlight, there is no longer any question of darkness. Similarly, when one gains the association of a sadhu, one who fully surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there's no longer any question of material bondage. Elsewhere in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's stated in chapter Canto 10, 84, verse 11, it cannot be denied that there are many holy places next to sacred rivers, or that demigods appear in deity forms made of earth and stone. However, it takes a long time for these to purify the soul, whereas saintly persons can purify one simply by being seen. Texts 205 and 206 come from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 84th chapter, verses 12 and 13. The demigods controlling fire, the sun, the moon, the stars, earth, water, ether, air, speech, and the mind cannot remove the sins of their worshippers, who thus continue in material consciousness. On the other hand, saintly devotees destroy one's sins when they are respectfully served for even a moment. Those who consider their material bodies to be their self, who consider their wife and children to be their own, who consider the land of their birth to be worshipable, and who go to the holy place of pilgrimage simply to bathe in the river, without inquiring from the saintly persons residing there, are no better than a cow or an ass. Text 207, the Vedas personified offered this prayer to the Supreme Lord in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.87.27. The devotees who take shelter of you have only disdain for death, placing their feet upon his head. However, with the Vedic injunctions, you bind the non-devotees, just like domestic animals, even though they may be vastly learned scholars. It is your devotees who are capable of purifying themselves and others, not those who are envious of you. And in the Vasudeva spoke the following verses found in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2, 5, and 6. The demigods give the living entities both happiness and distress, but the activities of great souls like you, Narada, who are an unalloyed devotee of the Lord, only result in the happiness of all beings. Those who worship the demigods receive reciprocation from them in the way that just corresponds to the offering. The demigods are disposers of karma, and thus they follow the living entities like one's shadow. Sadhus are all actually merciful, however, even to the most fallen souls. The Supreme Lord spoke this following verse, which is found in Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 20th chapter, 36th verse. There is no need to even think in terms of good qualities and faults in relation to the saintly devotees who have attained the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead and who treat all living entities equally. Text 211 to 214. Elsewhere in the Bhagavatam, it's stated in the 11th canto, 26th chapter, text 31 to 34, just as cold, fear, and darkness are dispelled by the appearance of fire, foolishness, fear, and ignorance are destroyed for one who is engaged in serving the devotees of the Lord. The devotees of the Lord who are peacefully fixed in absolute knowledge are the only shelter for those who are repeatedly rising and falling within the fearful ocean of material existence. Such devotees are just like a strong boat that comes to rescue one who is drowning in the ocean. Just as food sustains the life of all creatures, just as I am the ultimate shelter for those who are distressed, and just as religion is the wealth for those who are about to leave this world. My devotees are the only refuge for those who are afraid of falling into a miserable condition of life. My devotees bestow divine eyes upon their disciples, whereas the sun only bestows external vision when it rises in the sky. My devotees are one's real well-wishers because they are non-different from me. Elsewhere in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 20th chapter, 34th verse, it says, my sober and saintly devotees who have completely dedicated themselves to my service do not desire anything besides me. Indeed, even if I offer them liberation from the vicious cycle of repeated birth and death, they do not accept it. Maharaj Parikshit spoke this verse, which is found in Srimad Bhagavatam, 12th canto, 6th chapter, 3rd verse. The display of compassion that great personalities who are attracted to the devotional service of the Supreme Lord display towards the foolish living entities who are afflicted with the threefold miseries is not at all astonishing. Text 217. Rudra spoke this verse to Markandeya as recorded in Srimad Bhagavatam, 12th canto, 10th chapter, 25th verse. Even the most sinful and low-born persons become purified simply by hearing from and seeing an exalted personality like you. What then to be said of one who has your association? Text 218. While instructing his messengers, Yamaraj spoke this verse. Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 3rd chapter, 27th verse. My dear servants, please do not approach the devotees who have surrendered to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and who treat everyone equally. Such devotees are glorified by the demigods of heaven, and so please do not go near them. Because they are protected by the club of the Supreme Lord, Brahma and I, and even the time factor are incapable of chastising them. Further, it's stated in the Vishnu Purana, you should stay away from the exalted Vaishnavas, whose sinful reactions have been reduced to nil by following the prescribed yamas and niyamas, their do's and don'ts, rules, who are not bewildered by desires for material enjoyment, who do not expect any respect for themselves, who are not envious of anyone, and whose hearts are attached to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Text 220. This cosmic manifestation, as well as myself, Yamaraj, are non-different from Lord Vasudeva. He alone is the supreme control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Considering this, you, the Yamadutas, should leave them, the devotees, alone, remembering that their hearts are completely pure because the unlimited Lord resides there. Text 221. O messengers, those who always take shelter of the Supreme Lord, saying, O Lord Vishnu, O Supreme Controller, O Achyuta, O Vasudeva, O Lotus-eyed Lord, should never be approached by you. The Sudarshana Chakra, which is beyond our power to counteract, protects anyone in whose heart the inexhaustible Supreme Lord resides. Indeed, the destination of such devotees is Vaikuntha. So in the Vishnu Purana and also in the Narasimha Purana, it's stated, just to benefit the conditioned souls, Brahma, who was born on the universal lotus flower and who is adored by all classes of men, appointed me to the post of Yamaraj long ago. So that I could engage myself in awarding everyone the results of their fruitive activities. I punish those who are averse to the lotus feet of Lord Hari, spiritual master of everyone, and I offer my respectful obeisances unto those who have surrendered at his lotus feet. Even if Vaishnavas commit some sinful activities, I do not have the right to punish them. Indeed, I am firmly devoted to the lotus feet of the Lord's devotees, and by their mercy I hope to elevate myself to Vaikuntha, where I can directly serve Lord Vasudeva. I am not at all independent, for I am fully dependent on Lord Krishna, who is competent to punish me if the need were to arise. Continuing on, text 225. Although the moon has spots, it cannot be overcome by darkness. Similarly, saintly persons who are fully absorbed in thinking of Lord Hari are to be considered glorious, even if they sometimes are seen to commit sinful activities. Such contamination can never obscure their glorious position. In a conversation between Devaduta and Vikundala that is recorded in the Padma Purana, these verses are found. The brother of River Yamuna, Yamaraj, has repeatedly instructed us, never arrest Vaishnavas, for they do not fall under my jurisdiction. Even if one who worships Lord Vishnu was born in a wretched family or was always engaged in sinful activities, he must be accepted as a Vaishnava, and so you should not approach him. Text 228. Those who live in the association of Vaishnavas and those who eat at the houses of Vaishnavas are freed from all sinful reactions by their association. You should always leave such persons alone. In the Amrita Sarodhara section of the Skanda Purana, so here we find out where the Amrita Sarodhara is actually as I said before, a section of Skanda Purana, section of Purana. These following verses are found. If you are actually my faithful servants, then do not bring to me those persons who fast on Ekadasi, even though they may have committed hundreds of sinful activities. Even though one may have committed millions of sinful activity, if he remembers Lord Janardana at the time of death, then you should not approach him. This is my order. Neither I, nor Brahma, nor Shiva, nor Agni, nor Indra, nor any other demigod is capable of punishing a Vaishnava. Indeed, I treat all Vaishnavas with the greatest respect. Therefore, you should stay far away from Vaishnavas. Vaishnavas are as worshipable as Lord Vishnu, and so those who offend them will certainly meet with destruction. Text 234 to 236. Simply by remembering an exalted Vaishnava, hundreds of sinful reactions are burnt to ashes. There is no doubt about this. How can I possibly describe the glories of the water that has washed their lotus feet? Simply by receiving the dust of their lotus feet, one can achieve the benefit of bathing in the Ganga, Narmada, and Yamuna rivers. Everyone can become thoroughly purified by water in the form of the Vaishnava's instructions, even without bathing in the Ganga, and in thousands of other holy places of pilgrimage. Text 237. It's also stated, if either you or I cause trouble to a Vaishnava, then nowhere will afford us shelter, be it Brahmaloka, Kailash, or the abode of any other demigod. Text 238 to 240. If one offends a Vaishnava, then no one, including the demigods, Gandharvas, Yakshas, Uragas, Rakshasas, or sages, can give him protection. O great souls, due to fear of the Sudarshana Chakra, I cannot even dream of displeasing the Vaishnavas by means of my body, mind, or speech. If I were to harass the Vaishnavas, the Lord Sudarshana Chakra, his carrier, Garuda, and his messengers would angrily confront me. Text 241. In the Brihad Purana, it's actually says here, Chaikadasi Mahatmyam, in the Glories of Ekadasi, in the Mahatmyam, the Glories of Ekadasi, it's stated, You should always remain calm and somber while dealing with Vaishnavas, who are always engaged in the devotional service of Lord Hari. Devotees of the Lord are grateful. They follow the vow of Ekadasi, and they are self-controlled. In a mood of surrender at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, they cry out, O Achyuta, O Narayana, O Hari, we take shelter of you. Nice. Text 242. You should never try to obstruct a Vaishnava whose intelligence is engaged in the service of Lord Hari, who is eager to follow the path traversed by the Mahajans, the great devotees, who is charitable towards other devotees, who takes pleasure in narrating Lord Hari's pastimes, and who faithfully chants the holy name of the Lord. Text 243. O messengers, you should never impede the great souls who have given up the association of non-devotees, who find satisfaction in performing devotional service to Lord Hari, who are greedy for associating with saintly persons, who decorate their bodies with the tilak, the Vaishnava tilak, Urva Kundra, who do not discriminate between Lord Hari and Lord Shiva, and who are always ready to benefit everyone by instructing them in the practice of devotional service. So that's nice. Where are we here? This is in Skanda Purana. Okay, so in Skanda Purana, we have a mention. We have a mention of this. Is very interesting. So it says here that they Shambho Harescha Sama Buddhi. So they think Lord Shiva and Lord Hari to be Sama, on an equal. So we can understand Lord Shiva is a great devotee of the Lord. He's a Mahajan. He's the greatest Vaishnava. So because he's the greatest Vaishnava, naturally great Vaishnavas are the greatest Vaishnavas. They're considered as qualitatively equal to the Supreme Lord. So in that way, certainly we can accept Lord Shiva and Lord Hari as being on an equal platform in that way, in that sense. Right. So that's what it means here when it says to not discriminate between Lord Hari and Lord Shiva. Text 244. Even though they may be engaged in sinful activities, you should carefully avoid the devotees who have received the merciful glance of a great soul. Even though they may be engaged in sinful activities, you should carefully avoid the devotees who have received the merciful glance of a great soul. Don't approach them, right? This is instructions to the Yamadutas, right? Don't approach one who is always absorbed in discussions of Lord Hari, whose object of meditation is Lord Hari, and who takes pleasure in drinking the Charanamrita of Vaishnavas and exalted Brahmanas. Right, so we have so many quotations here that are being spoken by Yamaraj to his servants not to bother the Vaishnavas or the devotees of Lord Hari. So Narada Muni spoke this verse, which is found in the end of the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Even though the Supreme Personality of Godhead is fully independent, he becomes dependent upon his devotees. The Lord is not so attached to the goddess of fortune, nor to the kings or demigods who beg for her benedictions. Where is that person who is actually grateful and yet will not agree to worship the Supreme Lord?